probably get into a little bit more of that as we continue.
I'm Alex. I'm new at Farmers Grow Local, and basically we're an aquaponics startup. So I don't know if you guys know what aquaponics is, but we'll get into that a little more.
Calvin Anderson. Yeah, we grew up, one of the 3 members of Grow Local. Just started production, so yeah.
I'm Steve Coyne from Seymour, and I'm a authentic farmer, what I consider to be above organic, and I've been farming for 50 years, 20 years on the wrong side of the fence, 10 years of a transition, and 20 years on the organic side.
So I guess we'll start describing what we do. So I'll briefly describe what aquaponics is. It's a combination of aquaculture and hydroponic growth. So basically we feed fish. Fish produce waste. That waste is broken down by bacteria and turned into nitrates, which plants take up as fertilizer. So yeah, all our plants are hydroponically grown in rafts. Deep water culture, which is where a large body of water. It's helpful for us. It's just starting out. It's our first time doing something like this because there's not a lot of swing that can happen in nutrients, which is problematic for a lot of aquaponics farmers. But that's not all we do. We also have a small, I guess, organic, I'm not certified, but organic garden, market garden. We'll be growing this year tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, herbs, microgreens, and that's all. We only use compost on that. Right now we're using composted horse manure, but we will be starting a food waste pickup system with people that we self-produce to, which right now we're kind of gearing our product mix towards restaurants in the area, but we want to keep a substantial portion of our crop for individuals who want to buy as well.
I think we get really interested in aquaponics because of, going to liberal arts institutions. As many of you probably have, we've learned so much about all the tribulations associated with conventional agriculture. We saw aquaponics and urban agriculture as a really, really easy way to mitigate those problems with conventional agriculture. Water usage, pesticide usage, transportation to communities that need the food. So basically, we're trying to lessen those food miles, use less inputs, no pesticides, no fertilizers, those kinds of things.
What kind of agriculture do you do?
What kind of agriculture?
What is the authentic farming?
Well, we, if you've ever been to a farm market anywhere, it grows, regionally what's able to be grown there. We've done farm marketing even before we were organic and conventional farmers yet. And we run a CSA, a summer CSA 20-week program starting the first week of June and running through about the middle of October. And we also have a home delivered year-round CSA. We have a website that posts what's available, what the pricing is, and you can order and we'll deliver right to your home. Anything that's on that website that we have at that time. And it's a free delivery service, but you have to order a minimum of $75 gross amount of food from us for that particular delivery. And in addition to that, we have a worm farm. We produce our own organic fertilizer. At one time we were producing as much as 300 tons a year, but it was well before there was any awareness of that as being a real good compost product. And so we downsized to produce about 10 tons a year now. We do a lot of that for our own use, but we also sell about 5 to 6 tons. Some to other organic farmers, our biggest customers up at Marquette, Michigan. We've been trying to coax these people, any of them that produce more than, say, a half a ton, we try to coax them into starting their own word farm. And for what costs us $5,000 to get into it, we started some 20 years ago, I can put you in the business for less than $100. With all the expertise, if you follow according to the way we do it, to troubleshoot your situation, you go over the phone. And, I guess beyond that, we do year-round marketing, 2 on-site markets, both of them in Green Bay. One is on a Wednesday, it's at a restaurant that's connected with a supplement store, health food store. And during the winter, those hours are 10 to 3. And being that we started our spring very early this year, we'll actually have a couple outdoor winter markets, if you will, in March. And so we're changing for summer hours now, which are 3 to 7. And that's on Wednesdays. And then on Thursdays, we do another indoor market, another supplement store in Green Bay. And that's from 1 until 5. And that's indoor for the full 52 weeks of the year. So those are the ways we bring our food to the people. And we found through the 50 years that we farmed that when we started out, we probably had 95% of our business people coming to the farm. Now, it's just the other way around. We got to take the food to the people, and so it's just the way it is. We cannot coax the people to come to the farm. We got people that have been in our CSA for 15, 18 years and never been to our farm, even though they live within 25 miles of the farm. So, are there any representatives here from McCarthy House? Okay. What about Green Firehouse? I see some there. And Slug House? Yeah, okay. These folks that raise their hands, they have a closer, association with us through our food. We actually deliver to these homes during the school year. They order weekly or every other week whenever they make food. And quite frankly, in the community of Appleton, they're our biggest customers. At one time, we were the biggest in Appleton of all of our customer base, and now we're bigger and bigger. So I don't know what that says, except that most of us are where the market is, and I'm sure you young folks will do the same thing to get your program up and running. I think that pretty well explains kind of what we do. My background, I graduated from the University of Wisconsin and in biology. And went away to the military, came back, and my father purchased a little farm, and he died suddenly of a heart attack. My mother asked me to stay around till she could close out the estate, so to speak, and 50 years ago, and I'm still here. I married a farm gal from Grant County, down the southwestern tip of the state. She went away to Madison to become a registered nurse, and never wanted to go back to the farm. I met her, we got married, and here she is, 50 years later, on the farm. So I don't know what that says, other than the fact that we believe in what we do, we're passionate about it. And the reason I decertified on organic, that's probably a question you might have, is because in 2002, if you follow the history of organics in this country, USDA decided to take over. And they actually took hold of the word organic. I can't officially use the word organic in our name anymore because I didn't choose to play by their rules. And I could go into a lengthy discussion as to why we didn't continue our organic certification, but it had to do with when the government takes over things change. And I don't know if you realize or not, you can still have the USDA certified organic seal on your products, but you don't have to be 100% organic. And you can research that if you wish. But if you want to sell through channels where you need what they call a transaction certificate, then you have to be certified organic in order to generate that transaction certificate. So if you're selling to restaurants or anywhere else that requires that, you'll have to be part of USDA certified organic. In 2002, when our certification expired, we quit. And we changed our name to Authentic because this was recommended by Elliot Coleman, and if any of you followed, that gentleman from out east, he's top-notch organic, well above organic, authentic farmer. And they are coincidentally just on the same latitude line that we are. where he farms. So we've patterned a lot of our greenhouse work and what we try and do after him. And we can provide you with a fresh salad of some sort, 365 days a year off our farm. And we feel pretty good about that. So I think I'll just quit for a while here.
I was going to ask what you guys are doing about like organic certification, kind of what the thought process was when considering that.
Well, there's no, I don't think there's any organic certification for what we're doing yet. No standard, government standard. Well, I don't, even if there was, I don't know that we'd be interested anyway. Because, like you said, the word organic has been taken over and nobody even knows what it means anymore because it's used in, so frivolously, and the government, has strict guidelines which aren't even really organic. So we're really focusing on local and trying to use that as more of our marketing. Like you said, it's really hard. You said it's difficult to get people to your farm. Yeah, that's one of the positives of what we're doing is we're right in the city, and we've already had tons of people come out to our farm and see what we're doing and ask questions. We think that's really important for people to see where their food comes from. So local to us is more important than organic, even though we don't use any chemicals. So it's
Which is also another thing that we're marketing too, is chemical free.
Right.
Yeah, when the organics started taking hold, it was more about environmentalism. And then now, the folks that are buying organic, the majority of them are doing so for health reasons. We think it's healthier. So, at least from a marketing standpoint, we think that it's valuable to just go right to how we're not poisoning food. And that, food should be really nutritious. So, I guess that was our thinking of it, was instead of just, using this buzzword that is kind of unclear, that we just kind of say what we're doing and invite people over to take a look at it for themselves and, open suggestions. And, we're just starting out anyway, so that's our thought on that.
Yeah, I was wondering, you guys mentioned before we graduated from local arts schools, and so I was wondering how long ago you graduated, what the process has been since graduation to the point you are at funding, and how did this all got started for you guys?
Yeah, well, him and I went to UW-Madison. I graduated last year.
I'm still attending. I spend 4 days a week here and 3 days a week in Madison. So
Steve graduated from Marquette last May when I graduated as well. But basically, Calvin and I had been reading about Will Allen from Milwaukee, growing power. And we attended his conference last year, 2 years ago now. But basically, we just saw it as a really, I guess I want to say, a sellable product. Like you could take this product and it has all these virtues associated with it. Being local, being chemical free, being healthier, not poisoning the planet, and you can bring it to the city, and people can see it. So we basically came up with a business plan last year in the springtime. Entered a few business competitions, didn't do so well. But then we came up here to the valley, and we basically contacted friends and family, asking for some investment. And the great thing about our system is it's a really small system. We produce a lot of produce. So the startup cost wasn't too exorbitant. So basically, which is what we're trying to espouse is just, having a low startup cost so that anybody can get involved in it. And so we raised some money and spent the last 6 months constructing it, and now we'll finally have crops in the system, and we'll have our first crop in about 4 weeks. So.
It sounds pretty straight line, I guess, when we describe it like that. But we were business majors. I still feel like I'm using psychology and philosophy training, but I don't know. I don't know how much more help I can get with. I feel like we spent trenches and shoveling gravel, which has been fine. It's kind of fun too. But yeah, we really had to learn all this business stuff in addition to trying to pick up on all this horde and aquaculture stuff. But yeah, a big part of it has been kind of admitting that we're not experts in any of this, but we've been getting a network of advisors that we've been learning a lot from. So we got we've been working with a horticulture instructor at the technical college and the outreach director for the Wisconsin Aquaculture Association. And, we just kind of picked up a bunch of people that have been really helpful. But yeah, at the end of the summer we just had a hole in the ground. But now we've got 200 bluegill, one koi, and a couple thousand plants growing. But yeah, I mean, we were trying to figure out. I mean, like not to mention the plumbing and stuff, but all this stuff with the government permits and licenses and stuff like that. We can talk about that old winding yellow brick road that we traveled down. And I think we have it more or less figured out now. We occasionally get surprised. But I don't know. I mean, we don't have the wealth of like having done this for like a decade, or maybe some of you have been growing a lot longer than us, and I can definitely see that. But we are really waist deep in trying to start this thing right now. So it's kind
But we
of.
can,
I was just going to ask, well, actually it might change the course, so.
I was going to say, yeah, we just read a lot of manuals. I have like 10 like aquaculture engineering books from like the 70s. So out in Madison, I just found they were giving them away, so I grabbed them. I've been reading about like this whole urban agriculture movement. Just reading, go to forums and talk to people about their experiences. Yeah, just really just talking to people who have done this before and hearing what they have to say about say, oh, we're trying out this type of plumbing. What do you think? Do you think this is going to work or not? And they'll say yes or no, and we'll take that into consideration. So it's I don't know. I guess reading about it for 3 years, you kind of feel like you know most of it. And it's once you get to the point where you don't find any new information and everything you read is just the same thing over and over again, you kind of feel like you can do it. So.
And then once you do it, you find all the stuff they don't put in the books.
Right.
So a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
But it's moving now. But yeah, I figured that's kind of where we are. But if we can go into some discussion, that would be easy.
I was just wondering at the scale, I know it's hard without having sales yet, much of, just starting, at what point do you guys think you'll be able to sustain yourselves on the operation?
Yeah, it's the way we have it set up, we can harvest about 1,000 heads of lettuce a week. And then it takes about a year for our fish to mature, 10 to 12 months. But then, as it is right now, with the low startup cost that we have, we anticipate to be break even within the first year, which is really exciting. And you don't see that in a lot of startup businesses, so which makes it a really attractive thing for other people to start doing anything. It just requires a lot of work, I mean, Steve and I and Calvin have been out there, every day for the last 6 months trying to do this. So that was a lot of sweat equity that we put into it. It just happened. So we didn't get paid for any of those hours. So
Yeah, but we should be able to pay our rents from this without. Yeah, at least pay rent in a month or so, and then maybe a few more months we can start paying other things. But we're doing this first greenhouse as a pilot project basically, it should be profitable, it should work, should be low input, local and chemical free, as we want to continue doing. But then the idea, I guess, is that we'll see that there actually is this market. People are interested in what we want to provide, and looks like people are. And then we have our eyes on a couple of plots and say we want to see if we can get our hands on and do something a little bit larger, still just selling to the local community.
So you guys say that, you guys are saying that it's going to be low input and chemical free, and I'm wondering about what sort of methods or what sort of inputs you need to grow crops in Washington.
Just fish food, really.
What's that?
Just fish food.
And, well, electricity, the pumps.
What is that fish food?
It's a good question. It's really, really difficult to find organic fish food. In fact, I've never even seen it. So right now we're just using like standard fish food that's probably raised in the ocean, but luckily it requires a really little amount of it. But what we are going to do to kind of get rid of that, because we would like to be kind of off the grid, self-sustainable at some point. That is one of our goals. Is we're going to be growing redworms, we're raising redworms and black soldier flies year round, and then hopefully that will, that alone will not be able to feed, give the nutrient mix that we need for the fish, but we're looking into other things like some polyculture type, where maybe they grow algae as well, but we're trying to sort of supplement that fish food, which is probably the worst part about the whole thing. But yeah, that's the
So if you wanted to become certified, would you be able to?
no.
This is
There's no aquaponics organic certification yet.
do you think there's going to be one soon?
I hope
It
that
becomes popular enough. I could see the government wanting to regulate it, yes. But, yeah.
cross our fingers for now, though. Because then we can we'd like to hold ourselves to our own standard, and then just so that we don't get associated with people who are doing less quality things. So that's like the problem with organic is you say organic, and then you're associated with everyone who grows organically, which isn't really organically. And if we can say that we're something else, authentic, which is we're not authentic, but we're local, we're pushing the local thing and chemical free. If we can just say that, and then be really transparent about it, and say, come into our greenhouse, look at what we're doing. Do you think you're going to get sick off this?
Yeah, and that's the best part about being local is you can have people who will come to your farm, and when you're in the city, people will come and see what you're actually doing. Whereas you can buy organic from the grocery store right now, and yet it was still shipped 3,000 miles from California. And where's how is that any better? I would rather buy from a farmer down the road who may or may not be doing the same practices. Just makes the transparency greater. You have greater accountability. The consumer can demand different things. It's just more of a direct relationship. So there's less lag time in the demand, if that makes sense.
Do you use any mineral support for water?
No, we don't currently. We use well water, which we're very fortunate to have as opposed to city water. There's quite a few minerals in it right now. We have calcium deposits pretty much all over the system right now, which is kind of disconcerting because our pump probably has that too. So, but I don't know if we looked into that at all.
We do have the water quality test, so we know technically what's in it. But one of the things you do with aquaponics is there's tanks called mineralization tanks. And it basically is just letting the finer particulate matter from the waste kind of get caught in this filter instead of like clearing out all the solid waste, and then that breaks down into the micronutrients that you need. So whereas like in hydroponics, like you add specific nutrient mixes for what stage of growing you're in or what plants are growing. We're kind of confined by that. But once our system matures and there's more nutrients that are built up in the system, because it is recirculating, then we'll be able to grow crops like tomatoes and peppers that need higher
this is kind of a change in direction, but I'm wondering, what like your different roles are within your business? Like if you are all doing the same thing, or is someone focusing on marketing, someone focusing on setup, things like that? And then I was also hoping that Steve would talk about his labor setup at the farm as well.
Well, this is something that we've been kind of talking about amongst ourselves a lot. So we've outlined all the functions that we know of that we need to get done in our business, and so then we are according to our skills and desires and what we think that we can do, we're taking them on, each of us. So it's not like we don't have chief officers, but we're excited to try this way of doing it, just where I'm not like a director, I'm just Steve, and I do some things like I keep the books, I try to keep the government happy with us, I don't know, various things like that. I try to work on relationships with other organizations that we're excited about. Alex works on marketing and sales, and the three of us do a lot of these things as well. But I think it's important that somebody ultimately has the responsibility over it, so that it falls through the cracks. And Calvin has the greenhouse management and planning the in-soil beds and sort of growing expertise there.
It's really our effort at trying to make a new kind of business model. There's these terms out there. It's called fifth generation management, where basically you're trying to break down how people work within a company. Because previously you'd have the finance guy, you'd have the marketing guy, you'd have the human resources guy, and they would never talk to each other, so there would be a disconnect, and then you wouldn't have as much efficient work going on. But what we're trying to do is try to break those down and just have all of our best skill sets kind of weave into the final product, hopefully come up with a more efficient business model.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say about that is that our plan is to expand and kind of like, I guess franchise essentially. We're trying to make a turnkey business that anyone can come and say, okay, I have these skills. Say, well, okay, work with us for a year, then we'll help you set up your own farm. And we'll help you. Then you're basically integrated into our community. You have a network of people behind you that have data about crops, and they already have relationships built up with restaurants and people in the industry. And so you basically you come into a sort of our community, and we could be able to help you with all the logistics of running an urban farm. You just have to provide the sort of completing tasks on the farm, and I guess wrap it. So
there are some folks that are already out there that are trying to sell equipment and doing a lot of advising, and that's cool, but that's not really what we wanted to do. We help find cheaper ways of, for instance, making a hoop house. We've learned a lot after we've done. We do it much differently next time, but hopefully as we keep going, we'll learn more. Or we find really cheap tanks. We've learned a lot of that too. But to make it so that you can go back to your college town or your hometown, and you can start a farm with really minimal capital input and really not burdensome agreements with us. So hopefully this thing can kind of spread out. People can start doing this, and we're not really tied to aquaponics. We're really excited about compost tea, hydroponics, and we're doing soil. We really like that. But we're excited about starting this way. I think it's a really neat way of doing horticulture. So hoping that we can do this pilot project and then get a somewhat more substantial facility, and then start really working with some people who want to become farmers.
Kind of digress from the.
I'm sorry.
I was just trying to clarify why we're talking corporate structures, because the plan is to not just be like our own farm and sustain ourselves. It's kind of to expand the movement, you know, and get really increase demand and increase supply.
I have more questions of them. Do you mind if I ask them some more questions? I mean, I think it'll shed some more information for you too. Your base was going to be bluegills?
We're starting with bluegill, but we want to raise perch, local fish. So, like, say we went to this, you know, another part of the country, we might grow something to fish.
Well, I mean, the sustaining force of the business is the produce. The fish is the fish, I think.
Oh, so that's.
Yeah, so it's not like a fish farm.
Something like 10% of our income should be fish.
Because way back, 15, 16, 17 years ago, the governor then, I can't remember who it was anymore, but he had a guy who had a type program looking at immunology or, you know, aquaculture. At Stevens Point, and before we went into the worm business, we looked at that for our barns. Because prior to that, we raised them different for cattle, you know, that just weren't compatible with everybody organic at that time. And we came away from there overwhelmed by the regulators that came up with all the rules and regulations for wastewater disposal. I'm sure now you're dealing with a lot of that. You can't just, you know, like the paper mills did for decades, you know, out of sight, out of mind, just kept pushing the stuff from the river right out here. You know the background of the river if you've been here at school long enough. And it's nice to see the bald eagle family over there. My gosh, thanks, that's incredible. To be going to school here to be able to look at that every day and watch the progress, that's incredible. Compared to what the Fox was 10 years ago. But anyhow, so that's why we went to word business because, and have you looked at any, in your research, of sustainable perch operations, and I mean sustainable from every category, primarily of which is economic. Because we've had several different companies, small-scale companies in the area here that tried it and they all bombed out on it. Now, things have probably become more refined technologically, you know, to make it work, but food was a key item and you still address that is, because it's hard to find good quality fish food. And perch thrive on a very high quality, consistent.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think the short answer is no. We have not found any sustainable perch operations. But the nice part about aquaponics is that you are not relying on that for income. You're relying on the produce that you grow every week. So economically, I think we've broken down that barrier. But it's just a matter of really honing in on our skills of being able to raise fish well, because perch are finicky.
Most of that, that's around fair if you can get it.
Yeah.
Another question, I don't know if I quite follow you. Your seed money to get where you're at right now today, April 1st, that came pretty much from donations or grants or
small loans from
yeah, this is just loans from friends and from family. So yeah, we refined the plan quite a bit after we didn't get the grant from the competition, which is fine. But yeah, then we just started approaching people that we knew and agreed on some terms that they'd be okay with. And yeah, so it's all loans, and so we didn't just bring equity to the table and bring additional partners. Actually, we were
student loans. You got these loans.
But like I think you said before, I think we plan on having that paid off within the first year. Or two.
Well, I congratulate you on taking the risk, because agriculture, even though you're going to have somewhat more control over it than me going outside, it's still going to be a supreme challenge. You're risking about the same as what you risk to buy a lottery ticket for the last big lottery that got divided 3 ways here recently. That weather has been the whole thing in 50 years. That has been, the thing that we deal with. Since I've been organic, I deal with it much more calmly and, in not an angry manner like I did for the first 20 years when I tried to control it. But so no, Mother Nature gives and she takes. And if she takes too much, too soon before you get your thing going and you pour out your welcome with every person or entity that has helped you get going. You know, there's only so much you can give of yourself, and it's just a struggle, and that's why there isn't much small-scale agriculture left anymore. And you all know the history of that. It's all big and it's all government financed, and to that extent, it comes under the category too big to fail. Too big to fail. If any of you followed your, you know, the pollution problems for these big dairy farmers, they're rampant. The big egg producers are rampant. The big poultry producers are rampant. But they're too big to fail. You get a slap on the wrist and they keep on going. The biggest challenge you'll have, it's the same as the biggest challenge I know I've had, is to make these people, your consumers, trust you, and to not one time violate that trust. Because once they know you violated the trust they put in you, they'll stop buying your food, won't they? Because they'll never know after that whether they can trust you again. And so that means when you've got a crop out there perfect, and the weather wants to do a dump, and the insects want to do a dump, and the blight wants to do a dump, that you don't reach for the no-nos. Because we've been faced with that challenge every year since we became organic. Every year. And that's why we struggle to make a living. We have no retirement portfolio. We have nothing other than the land and the food we produce and the customers we keep, because we will not reach for the no-no. And that'll be a challenge beyond challenges, because you don't know what's going to happen. You can research it, you can put it on graphs, you can do everything you want. But then Mother Nature puts her footprint on it and changes the whole scenario. And sustainability, that's what it's all about. And you said the key word, I think, franchise. You know, if you get something going good here, that's about the only way that it would really ever be sustainable. To get some dollars in it, because you're going to have to satisfy your creditors, whether or not they're just even you three. You're not going to sit 50 years into this and hope it's going to work out better. You can't afford it. So it's a challenge, but what's in the offing? You, the customers, to support that kind of agriculture, period. We've been doing it 50 years here, 20 years with the CSA, and you know what? There isn't enough people in the whole greater, you know, Fox Valley area, which will extend all the way up into Green Bay, down to the tip of Fond du Lac. 500,000 people plus that will keep CSA sustainable. We've gone from as high as 160 members down to 50 members, 60 members. We've tried every which way, short of asking you for the keys to your house and preparing a meal for you with our food in your house to make it convenient for you. We went from 160 members on our home delivery CSA, all the way down as far south as Oshkosh, as far west as Two Rivers, and we're down to about 10 or 15 families on that program. So as you, as being young consumers, what more do you want? Now, I don't buy the kind of fish that they say that they are going to try to produce, but I got the wild Alaskan salmon from a family that we know up in Alaska. That fish is a doggone fish, so now maybe it's not a local connection, but I can take you to the family that catches the fish. The chickens I provide, I don't grow those. I get Amish families down in Hillsborough and Cashville grow for me, and up to Montville. But I can take them on the farm where they're growing. If you want to go on the day they butcher, you can watch them butcher them, you can watch them clean them, and you can watch me put them in a bag and sell them to you. What more do you want? But obviously, you know, 499,900 people want more. But it's not cheap. And you won't be able to do it cheap here. What are you projecting, if I may ask, to sell a head of lettuce for? Just projection. You said about how many heads a week you're going to produce. What, just projection, ballpark.
Like $250 to $3
How many?
$250 to $3 a head of lettuce.
Okay, next big romaine head?
Yeah, well, it's about a third of a pound, so.
Pardon?
About a third of a pound.
A third pound. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, we know that's a high price.
Ask some of these folks that now we're going to be running our market here in Appleton on College Avenue, you know, for the second year, and ask them what they charge for nice romaine heads that we produce, you know, they help produce it. You know, there's always cheaper food. There's always cheaper food. If it's not cheap enough produced in this country, or at least keep it local USA, then it would be bought in cheaper from overseas, from South America or wherever.
I guess we're not really that interested in competing on price.
If you can get the support at that price, then you've got a good chance. But 1,000 heads a week, and that stuff doesn't keep. You know, not the way you want to present it to the people you want to present it to.
Yeah, we prefer to pick it like moments before we deliver.
Yeah, boy, good luck. You know, I wish you all the luck. Where exactly is your location? I mean, exactly.
Right off Bell Street. The exit off 41. It's
West?
it's east.
Inland. Inland from the lake.
Yep.
Winnipeg.
Probably a quarter mile or a half mile from Lake Winnebago.
Okay.
You know, if you know where Mahler Park is, and there's a tank right
I
there.
used to deliver to some families.
Yeah, it's right across the street.
Okay.
Are you guys rented, you said?
Borrowing.
Or, how did you come to that arrangement?
Well, my family had a few acres out there. They've done some horses and chickens and things, and so they let us repurpose one of their horse paddocks. So that's been really nice for this start of it. Yeah.
So are you guys considering just that you guys can grow your own foods?
Yes.
Yeah.
So is that part of the reason why you have your prices are pretty high?
I really don't think the prices are really high. I mean, in Milwaukee, what are they selling from off price?
Growing Power sells their mix for $16 a pound
To restaurants.
to restaurants.
They also do sell the Cisco now, though, so.
Yeah, they sell to Cisco for far less, but and then I think Sweetwater Organics sells for like $7 or $8 a pound. So yeah, I mean that's not a far cry from what we're asking.
Well, that's a mix, all right?
Yeah, they do spin it, yeah, mix it.
You know, we've had conversations with restaurants, specifically on the forefront of my mind. I was talking to the owner of Kangaroo Restaurant just yesterday, 2 days ago, and she actually buys Growing Power stuff from Cisco right now. And I was interested in what she was paying for that. She wouldn't tell me. And she asked me what I was going to charge for our lettuce, and I said somewhere in the area of $8 a pound. And she's like, oh, okay. What we pay right now is not enough. So I think people are receptive to paying for a better quality product. It's just, I don't think it's easily accessible right now. So if we come to the consumers, you know, I mean, farmers markets in these areas are terrific, and so I don't, you know, if we do have a problem selling at that price, then we can lower the price and lower our profit margin. I think it won't be a big deal for us because we can produce enough. So
All these young people at these houses here on campus that I deliver to, they're paying, you know, $10 a pound equivalent for our salad mix. And they started out paying $10 a pound, literally, for the spinach, but now we're in the field on our bed from last year, so you'll be happy to know we've lowered the price. So, but, you know, it's matters of supply and demand.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just, you got to flow with the market, you know. That's,
By no means do we mean to price gouge at all. If we'll, I mean, yeah, we're just going to take what people are willing to pay.
well, it's just like sweet corn, right? What will you pay for the first dozen of nice sweet corn, even though it came out of southern Indiana, you know? You're going to pay a huge price, even though the local good stuff comes later, and the prices, you know, going down. So.
Yeah, well, we're hoping to be able to just match the organic prices and know that ours is going to be better. It's going to be local, and it's going to be more obvious how we're making it. So
I think the novelty, I mean, too, of what we're doing will help us. I don't think we'll have any problem selling all of it.
You got a big enough audience if you can just,
Yeah.
you know, get some support local. That's very appropriate for this time.
This one's kind of so you guys can't grow like your crops. So it's just
Not indoors, no. Not aquaponics, no. We actually are looking at some I guess, experimental ways of growing potatoes that they just kind of have been working on at Madison. It involves basically just mixing the perfect soil mix and then putting it in barrels, 50-gallon drums, and you get something like 40% more potatoes per square foot or something like that. So we're looking at doing some things like that for root crops, but maybe we're open to doing a lot of different things. More about, food pounds per square foot, or I guess dollars per square foot.
Steve, could you talk a little bit about your transition?
I mean, to organic or authentic? Well, I guess, and the reason we went there, well, we were farming pretty large scale with a lot of the land we rented and, around the neighborhood, up over 180 acres actually. And we were growing, a lot of vegetables, shipping wholesale, like when we were conventional. And, we were right at the beginning of that get bigger, get out era, which I think to some extent still exists. And couldn't get any bigger because a lot of the farm kids that we had help us on the farm, these were from all the small family dairy farms that were in the township where I lived. And they quick hurry through their chores, they come over to our place and just help because they could earn some extra money for the fair, for school clothes, or whatever their passion was. And their parents were happy to let them go because they'd done their share of the work on the farm. And then they all were within 3-4 miles of where we lived. And I had 15, 20 of these kids just screaming at me for work to do. And we'd go to the work, and that's when I was young, my wife was young. And man, could we work. We were just more about work and fun. And we were out making money, but you didn't, you didn't have to worry about making money. You made enough to get by. And I didn't think about making any other investment other than in my farm. And, but then those kids got older, and they went on to school, or they got married, and they went out to jobs that were real jobs, as a lot of people in town call them, like, get a real job. That's what they call it. Get a real job.
My father.
Anyhow, so then we had to start looking at some niche markets so that we could, for survival, that's what drove us into organic. We went through a transition. It was like the transition from conventional to organic, but it wasn't really that. But we weaned ourselves under the direction of a consultant from Chesley, Ontario, actually. And I was the only vegetable farmer in the group. There was 10 other dairy farmers, some from as far south as Madison, a couple from Freedom, a couple from over near the lake. But they got going on knowing they had to take better care of their cattle and better care of their soil because they understood that through the nutrition in the soil, the crops became more nutritious, the cattle were healthier, and they assumed that the byproduct, meat, eggs, whatever, milk, was going to be better. And so we formed a group, and this consultant, after being on your farm for just a couple times, you could troubleshoot to him all the way into Canada, and and you tell him the weather, and he could, consult and tell you what your crops was lacking based on moisture, temperature, etc. And so he weaned us off the chemicals, with the exception of a few, one for strawberries and one for sweet corn. These were the hard ones because those pests were very persistent, and you, the consumer, demanded you didn't want wormy corn. And you didn't want knot-bottom strawberries. And so we clung to those. But fertilizer-wise, we went to all line products, from gypsum to Idofos to Calphos to Albuquerque, New Mexico, humates and everything else. And we really felt good about that because we saw the soil life come back. And we've always been on our hands and knees, small scale, relatively speaking, other than I had all those farm kids help me. But so that preceded our actually getting into organics, but then we were still farming larger scale, about 80, 90 acres, and we started producing organic soybeans for the Japanese market. And this is back, 17, 18 years ago, when they paid very high price for the United States stuff before the GMO started. And so we got in on a few years of that, but then that crashed. And so then we let go of all the rented land. In fact, I even rent 30 acres of my land to my nephew now, who keeps it organic. And we're farming just 3 big greenhouses and about 10 acres of land. and a lot of that's in cover crop. But the transition was very painful when we really cut the umbilical cord between those last two chemicals we kept, you know, the sweet corn chemical for the earworm and corn borer, and then the strawberry chemical for the French one. And we lost a $10,000 strawberry cap the first year of transition, 100% loss. And we had to give up going sweet corn because we couldn't sell our wormy sweet corn. Even though our CSA people said, oh, we'll take wormy sweet corn, we don't care because we just want organic corn. No, they wouldn't take it because we had it on the table with the shares where they could actually pick up their own share. And within 5 minutes, all the cobs were husked back and they were all left there if they had worms in. So you see there's a certain thing about getting beyond this whole thing, buying your food with your eyes, that persists with their, you know, and even if I went to the store, there were 2 heads of cauliflower there, I'd pick the nicest looking one, even though they were both grown by the same farmer, and look, you know, nutritionally were the same. I still pick the nicer looking one. And anybody who says they wouldn't, I think you're just fooling yourself. So this really carries over. Same thing with tomatoes. Now, if you do tomatoes, you're going to be tempted to go to all heirlooms. And the best tasting heirloom tomato are the Brandywine series. And they are also the ugliest looking tomatoes. Any of you that have grown those or seen them at market, you know what I'm talking about. And the more they crack open and the bigger they get, the better they are. You got to look beyond that, folks. And now there are some varieties that look quite nice, and you know people are starting to nibble at the edges on those, and some of them will wait for them and take them, which is good. But finally, anyhow, we got through this transition, which is 2 years, and then we could apply for certification. You know, so I went to find up in front of the review committee the first time after my farm inspection. And, you know, you're kind of shaking in your boots a little bit, and especially when I think there were 5 people on the review committee, 3 of them were city people and 2 were farmers. So now a city person is going to review me after, at that point in time, spending 30-some years in agriculture. They were going to ask me questions and put me on the spot. So they started by saying, okay, you're producing worm castings, how do you know they're organic? I never thought I'd have to defend myself on that. And I said, what do you mean? The worm lived in this medium that we put him in, pooped out the mineral matter after it ate all the organic matter, which was his food, and you're challenging me on to whether or not that worm castings is organically acceptable? And there's a lot of questions I want to ask her, but I didn't want to. I think she was from some extension, you know, so she should have been pretty well versed on things. And she said, well, what do you feed them besides this dirt? We were getting it from Falks Brothers over Wapak. It's virgin bog soil. That's what we start out with. We still use that. And to that, we add an organic mix of feed made up of, you know, wheat and barley and alfalfa meal and calcium, magnesium. And, are those ingredients all organic? I said, yeah, for the most part they are. I said, if I can't get them because we weren't doing these, you know, ingredients ourselves, I said, well, if they are organic, then you can't claim that your worm castings are organic. And she had all those other 4 members on there, including the 2 farmers, kind of looking her way and wondering about all that, whether they would certify me because they were using worm castings in addition to the mine products, which they accepted. And, but then I remember something I read in a little brochure we put out that I think Charles Darwin, or one of those great, you know, naturalists from the past, said, worm castings are Mother Nature's most perfect compost. No matter how good you do a compost pile, you'll never be able to produce a compost that is as complete with as much water-soluble nutrition as what the worm can do. And so I popped that on her, and then I had her somewhere where she couldn't know what to say anymore. So she backed off and we got passed. So there we went through the last hurdle. They sent the paperwork forward, and a few months later I got the official okay. We were certified with OCIA, Organic Crop Improvement Association. We stayed with them for 3 years, and we switched to MOSA, Midwest Organic Service Associates, I believe they are. They were headquartered out of, Vernon County, anyhow, down They were more local, and they were more inclined to deal with vegetable farmers. The bigger ones, they were more toward the grain farmers, dairy farmers, etc. But that's what started our organic thing. And the transition was hard, let me tell you, any different. But each year now, we've been about 20 years from the first transition year to this one. Each year, every year, I can see it incrementally benefit more to the soil and wildlife around our farm. So it's still improving after all those years. And some of you that were here last year probably heard me compare the transition to the same thing that there happens when you might transition off of alcoholism, drug use, whatever. Those situations are very, very painful, but the end result is well worth the effort. And that's how painful it was for us, because it hit the pocketbook big time. We went back in the debt on the farm, a debt that we haven't totally come out of yet. So we've been farming that farm for 50 years and still don't own it.
After weaning your crops off of those two chemicals, did you choose to use some type of biocontrol, or what did you do?
If you read into and this isn't in a lot of modern writing, but if you go back into readings about what happens when you make the soil real sweet and properly balanced, then the crop takes up more of that natural balanced nutrition. Depending on what crop it is, it uses different amounts of different things. But when it gets to its peak, the Brix level, Brix is a measure of the sugar in that plant. And most of the insects that are harmful and detrimental to the crop pick on weakened things, just like the flu or cold bugs or whatever will pick on us if our immune system is down. So the key to good health among all of us is keeping our immune system so incredibly high that we can be amidst every kind of disease and virus and sickness there is and still maintain a high level of health. And so that's what happens with the plants. And really, other than a few insect pests that usually get up the crop if we have a severe weather stress, which lowers the immune value, if you will, or the strength level of the crop temporarily, the insects don't bother us anymore. We don't grow sweet corn because that stuff is just... Strawberries, we just take what we get. We have some modestly old, acceptable organic sprays, like one is Pyganic, it's a natural form of the Parethium, which has been made into all these synthetic products, which are very potent and very cheap. That year we lost a $10,000 strawberry cap. I still had the part container, the product we used called Ambush at that time. Would have cost me $10 plus my time to apply it. $10 to save that $10,000 strawberry crop. It was right there on the shelf. Like I said, arms reach away. And you do or you don't. But you can go now and buy these sprays. It's a Parethium spray, I believe, again. And with a backpack sprayer, when your sweet corn is silking, because the moths come and lay the bugs on the green silk, the larvae, or the eggs, larvae hatches, and the bugs eat in through one of the green silk. And you can spray the new emerging silk by hand, but sweet corn isn't worth it to you to do that. And you can get a pretty good control, and then spray the cob, and you can keep the corn more out too. But it's just not worth it. So the corn I bring back that you might sell at the farmer's market this summer, probably from the Amish folks down there, because we have this huge network of Amish farmers down in Cashin and Hillsborough that we also that support us. So that if you join our CSA, if we have a crop failure on our 10 acres back there, we're going to sit there with nothing, because that is always a possibility. And I've got another Amish community up by Bonneville, smaller one that's also spread the risk, so that I can guarantee you you're going to get food. Last year we had 20 weeks in a row of tomatoes. From the first week of June, we had tomatoes going in Wisconsin. Right through the end. So, these are some of the things we do, but transition on anything is, that's just what it is, a transition. And, but, and the disease is practically non-existent, really. And if we have a disease problem that we see might be coming because of a lot of excess moisture and humidity and cloudy weather, then the worm castings, you can make compost tea out of that, incredible. Not only as a foliar feed, but as a, light retardant.
You spray compost tea?
Is that aerated compost tea or just water?
Just water. There's a lot of different things you can do. There's, from time to time in your agricultural product, magazines and whatnot, they'll come along and they'll get real excited about a certain a higher level of lister, so it'll bring out more bacteria and different things like that. All those things help. But I think on a large scale, if you just try to concentrate on your soil and making it balanced in nutrition, and that includes a lot of falling down of green rivers. There's many varieties you can get. Buckwheat, rape, triticale, anything. Just feed more varieties. And you can do 3 to 4 varieties within a growing season and still get a crop off the land the year that you do it. Because lettuce is very short term. You come back with something in between a couple lettuce crops. But if you keep growing lettuce on the same ground, or anything on the same ground, even though you get 3-4 harvests off that same piece of ground, you're going to enhance the risk of crops.
You mentioned something about taking a bricks test, foliage test. Do you have a strategy?
Spectrophotometer really is. It's a little handheld device. You just squeeze a drop of juice out of it, put it on there, and just that quick it'll tell you right what the bricks level.
What does it measure for?
Sugar.
Oh, just for sugar.
Sugar.
So, but then
Sugar content.
how do you translate that to macronutrients?
I don't know that I even tried. I'm not worried about making that connection. I mean, you could go on your computer and find out the relationship between sugar levels and nutrition. But I do know that there's dairy farmers, small-scale dairy farmers that I know of, who go out and measure the bricks levels of their hay before they cut. And contrary to the conventional way of harvesting hay now, trying to get as many cuttings as you can and cut pre-bud alfalfa, pure alfalfa, that's not the most healthy hay. Give you a lot of milk in the bulk tank from high-producing cows, on a totally force-fed conventional feeding system, and burn the cow in 2 years, 2 lactations. And so then that makes McDonald's and Hardee's and all those places happy because they're munching all these cull cows, still in very good flesh there, but it won't give you the maximum nutrition. And that's why so much of the conventional food produced on large-scale commercial farms just falls flat as far as nutrition. It's calcium-added milk. What do you mean calcium-added milk? If you grew it right, you shouldn't have to add calcium, for God's sake. And what kind of calcium are they adding? You ever question that? Go back to the natural food, and that's where I think you'll keep more customers than you'll ever have to worry about. If you just get the quality of that food up, so it's always sweet. And that's just a natural thing. And if you were a young family raising some kids, and you brought them up on that kind of food, they wouldn't be grabbing for all that candy at the checkout counter. For God's sakes, they have all the sweetness they need right after food. But that's not the way it happens here. But that's my take on it after 50 years of this going on here.
Cool. Well, it's 11:30, so the time limit for this is over. But I think, are you guys all going to come to lunch with us downstairs if you're interested? And we can do lunch with them and ask more questions, chat.
Thank you.
Yep. 30 minutes.